the Chad?
And then we'll go.
Hey Charlie,
Yeah.
Can I get a I am not the Chad from you?
Say what?
Can I get a I am not the Chad?
I like John Candy. I like the Blues Brothers. But I am not the Chad.
So she said they're all alarmed because we're going to be
Hello, hello. This is the Chad. I got nobody here right now. I'm gonna wait a few minutes, but put a minute 20 in. So I am in Pembroke, Ontario, at Rally in the Valley, going live. So I'll try to keep an eye on the comments. Anybody jumps in, welcome ahead of time. So, oh, I got one in. Jumped in my comments.
We're on the move.
We're on the move? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to switch my camera here when I'm thinking about it.
They're already here. That's the humming in your ear. That's everybody making. We need to cut them down. In other countries, they can cut them down with straw dolls. So we need a group of people with straw dolls to get our mask and our thing and get a house. We go.
There we go.
I go hide the person.
I'm going to switch the comments. Hello, Ronnie. How are you, darling? Yes, I am live on your channel as well, dear. Just so you know. So I'm here with the trucker who never left. Right now.
We're gonna roll up there.
We're gonna roll out. We're gonna do a little convoy up to the. I'm live right now, buddy.
All right.
Online.
Yeah, I'll go see Adam back there. We might have to move that flag. Ready?
You're welcome to jump up if you want, Ronnie. You know that. You know how to get in. You have the keys, so. Don't know how well I'll hear you, but you're more than welcome to jump up, Ronnie. You know that. Anyway, Brian's gonna do a roll up here to the. In a minute to the hill or to the meeting area where they're meeting at, which is over here. I'm just hoping my phone doesn't fall off this tripod that I bought for the phone, but hey, it works. Oh, no smoking in the park. Okay. Getcha.
So I wasn't smoking, it was the fireworks. And I lied. Sorry, Lord.
Oh, it's all right. We won't hold that against you. Okay, that's good, Ronnie. You can stay down. That's fine. You can stay down there, honey. That's fine. Do the keep an eye on the chat. So
Enjoy your day.
I'm gonna try.
Well, I'm not gonna back down.
Okay. So I'm not gonna go too far away from Brian for the moment. But yeah. So
We are officially in Pembroke right now for the rally in the valley. We've got Adam here in the caboose of my little train, and we are here to bring support to listen to some of the speakers that'll be enlightening us here today at this rally. This is the third year in a row that I've been here to this rally. Got ourselves a little decked out here today. We want to go rolling onto the scene. If Chad can hold my phone and record while he's recording, I'm going to get on this bike. You want to turn that around now?
yeah.
You can see through there. And I'll close this up and we'll be on our way. We'll go find a spot over there.
The joys of having to walk backwards.
And we are going to ride. You all good back home? Tied up. Going anywhere unless you tie him up first.
Well, yeah, you got to tie Adam up. I'm pretty sure I have it on all three, Ronnie. I have it on my Twitter, YouTube. What, Brian?
What I'd like you to do is once you get more or less around the corner there and come rolling on, I'd like to kind of lose the trunk, or not the lose the
Hello, Lacey. How are you? I have two phones going here, by the way, so just so people know. I am live on Brian's phone, and I'm live on my own YouTube channel, which is The Chad Media altogether, just so everybody knows. Well, everybody on my phone knows that, but anybody that's on Brian's knows.
Lacey Lynn Pool.
Lacey Lynn Poole, yeah.
Hey, hi, Lacey.
Brian says hi, Lacey. Kat,
All right.
Brian says hi as well.
So I'm going to need you to grow another arm by the time we get around the corner.
I don't think that's possible,
I
Brian.
want you to unhook the Trudeau thing so that Adam can have a vision.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I can do that after.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now we are on our way.
We're rolling.
Okay. There we go, friend.
I'm taking up the rear, I guess, here. Should be in the front, but Brian moves too fast for me, so. Okay, so we're coming into the rally in the valley, where everybody's at.
We need to know which God is performing because there is a liar out there. There's only one God. There's only one creator. He is God. He is Jesus. You know, before creation.
Let me.
No. Not God. Our God is not here.
I know.
All right. Our God is. So my job was to start the word of prayer. I want to pray because my message is just to draw us to the God, to the Lord, the one who has really been with us in the last 5 years, 3 years, 5 years, 5 years of what's going on. And I want us to pray, and would you join me in prayer as I pray? Lord, we were there. We were there in Ottawa. We were
Sorry,
there
everybody.
through those nights and those days, and we saw what had happened. We saw and we tasted that it was good. Encourage us, Lord, to keep standing in truth. Through the power of the blood of Jesus, change us, cleanse us, make us ambassadors of your gospel, increase our faith, teach us that we are safe now, and show us how we are saved for eternity by trusting you. Lord, give us hunger for the word of God. And together let's pray, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation.
Oh,
but
Johnny
deliver
Rowe.
us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay. Yeah, go for it. Okay,
I apologize.
yes, Brian.
He was so quiet, friends. I wouldn't have come rolling in there like that. He was so quiet. I didn't know anybody was speaking. We would have saved that and come rolling in here. So I want to apologize.
It
for
was
that.
good entrance, Brian.
Thank you. But I
Still
want.
good.
I didn't mean to. I didn't know anybody was talking.
That's
so
cool.
quiet. But anyway,
We're gonna work on making it louder because we got some folks in the crowd that can't hear that well like me. So we're gonna get the volume up here a little more. And
How about this? Would you like to use that?
that's good. We can do some tag team raps like
hey Brian. Oh yeah.
So yes, we are here, and this is the chat. I'm holding Brian's phone, and I got my own, of course, as well. Um,
hello.
I don't know where Brian.
Hello,
Well,
hello.
Brian's
Is that louder?
broadcasting wherever. I am on broadcasting
Crank
on
her up and see if
YouTube
it's
and
louder.
Twitter on the Chad Media. So if you want to,
How's that?
if something
I'm just talking
happens,
here. How's that, guys?
either
Is that-
one.
You can hear it a little better now? Okay. Yeah. We have to account for some of the extra buildup of wax in our ears. Some people got it. I throw mullein oil with, ear oil. You heard of that? Throw that in your ear. That loosens it up. It comes out. I've been snorkeling this summer thanks to mullein oil. I don't sell mullein oil, but I recommend it. Also, if you have an old cough, mullein tea. All right, now I'm going to introduce Kathleen. Kathleen's going to come and talk with us about her electrosensitivity, EMF safety, and 5G sorts of stuff. So here she is. Thanks so much for coming. Surtees, Kathleen Surtees.
I don't really want to use this mic. I'm actually electrosensitive, but I don't know if people can hear my voice okay.
No.
How can we? Is it her?
I'm going to use the mic. It's not a big deal. Anyway, thanks everybody. I'm really happy to be here today, and I very much appreciated that prayer we just had today. So, like Chris said, my name is Kathleen Surtees. I'm a social worker in the Ottawa Valley. And since 2019, I have been spending most of my time as a grassroots social worker, focusing on housing security, food security, and helping people with electrosensitivity deal with sort of injury recovery and housing. Mostly a big issue for people with electrosensitivity is when they become sensitive, is finding safe places to be. So touch on that a little bit today. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I will talk about some health stuff. I am not an electrician. You're going to have to put up with a bit of my paraphrasing when I talk about the electric field radiation. But I am somebody who's been pretty dedicated to technology and safety for the last 5 years. There was about 40 of us who started Ontario Cultural Technology in 2020, and that number has gone up to over 200. And we're not just people in Ontario, we're people in North Carolina and all over Canada. So there's lots of groups that have started. I've listed a couple of resources on the board there. I know it's a bit hard for you guys to see, but if anybody wants to come up afterwards and
Hello, Karen.
websites, etc., they're there. Some of the groups that I work with, Canadians for Safe Technology. This was a group started years ago by Frank Clegg, who was the CEO of Microsoft Canada, until he decided to switch to understanding more about the technology he was distributing. I think someone close to him got sick, and now he's the president of Canadians for Safe Technology. There's over 200 scientific articles listed on that website if people are interested in finding out more about what is wireless radiation and its effects on our environment, land, population health, etc. Dr. Magda Havas, she's a retired professor from Trent University. She runs the Rose Lab out of Peterborough, studying subtle energy. Any types of research questions, she loves to get involved in that nitty gritty. Sheena Symington, she's actually from Renfrew County. She runs the Electrosensitive Society out of Peterborough. They have a Monday night group for anybody who's injured or who wants to talk about electrosensitivity and what it looks like. Sheena Symington and her crew with Electrosensitive Society have actually already gone to over a dozen hospitals in Southern
Hello, John.
Ontario,
How are you?
several in Kingston, and done remediation services so that electrosensitive people could, for example, go for a week of cancer treatment and not be in extreme pain. So there's things that can be done that people are doing. There's a couple of remediation specialists in the Southern Ontario area. So Sheena is one of them. Denny Roy runs his business out of Ottawa, EMF Refuge. He mostly deals with businesses, but I know he is, if people want him to come out and take a look at their property, where's the wireless, most radiation coming from, what can they do? I think he'll come out for a group of people. So if there's a bunch of you that want to have a service like that, he's right in Ottawa. Okay, so I've listed a few more there, resources you can have a look. Arthur Furstenberg, he wrote The Invisible Rainbow. He's in South Carolina. He's actually started, I think it's called the Cell Phone Task Force. So a lobby effort to get people to throw away their smartphones. And so there's a big group of people down there who are taking that on. Okay, what else do I want to tell you today? We want to talk about safety. Where's my glass? Okay, cell towers. There's a big one. Line of sight is what drives the planning of cell towers. How can the companies, the cell tower companies, get the most direct signal from one tower to the next, so they can maximize your exposure to wireless energy, ostensibly so you can use your device. That's their main purpose. Trespass to property, trespass to person, this does not enter the dialogue in their planning. Your home, your livestock, your mother with cancer, it doesn't matter. Line of sight. The municipalities now all have in place in Southern Ontario building codes. Some have enacted them, some haven't, where you are no longer allowed to use materials that prevent RF from going through your house. So you cannot build a rock wall in a line of sight of a cell tower a kilometer away if your rock wall is going to stop those emissions. Now that's a pretty diligent township that's going to figure that out, but they put that there. So again, being an electrosensitive person, I absolutely need to build shielding material. By the way, Safe Living Technologies, well, they distribute materials, safe shielding materials, and they have been doing that for over a decade, I think. I put their site up there as well. You can get stuff to make covers, canopies. You can get paint for your walls. You can get meters, so you can tell exactly how much radiation is coming off of whatever you're measuring. Cell towers. Load-bearing research. What kind of research is done into what happens to load-bearing ability and structural security when we have a cell tower on a hospital, for example? In Bancroft, where I'm from, our water tower has no less than 5 cell towers on it. What does that do to the quality of water? Senior citizens complexes often will take the deal, have a cell tower put on their living space for seniors, because they can get anywhere from $700 to $20,000 a month per cell tower. depending on how many receivers they have on it from these companies, depending on how important that line of sight on that senior's home is. Are we talking about this? You know, what are the side effects of exposure to wireless radiation? I know we've talked about this for years, but just to mention a few, heart palpitations, headaches, blood issues, heart problems, type 3 diabetes. Magda Habib has written and researched this extensively on her website. You can check it out. Type 3 diabetes, but it's that. That's when your blood sugar goes up around wireless devices because the wireless radiation stims your adrenals. Attention. What happens when our adrenals are stimmed? We have a sugar response in the body. So if you're in a lab with a technician taking your blood with a cell phone here and a cell phone there, you're going to get a different sugar reading, insulin reading, than you would if you were in a clean environment. And Magda does this research. So these are the types of issues we see. Someone might have a manageable diabetic condition into a senior's home with a antenna on the top. Suddenly, we're losing our parents. Anyway, I wanted to talk for about 10 minutes, and I wanted to offer a chance for people to have questions, maybe answers. There's just a couple of call outs I wanted to do. There's two places right now who are successfully fighting cell tower placements. One is Maine News. A couple of years ago, they actually, Maine News just North Bancroft, they actually successfully lobbied and had a cell tower delayed, but they ended up putting it up a month later. But right now they're in fight again for another cell tower that community doesn't want. So any calls to council in the Maine News area for support would be great. The Dyers Bay in the Bruce Peninsula recently, as in within the last summer, halted a cell tower placement and were able to coordinate with the council so that that tower was put in an area where they deemed safer. That's right, Dyers Bay. The other thing to know is that we kind of hear just what's going on around us, but in Europe, and I've written a website for, I think it's Europeans for Safe Wires or something is what they call it. Switzerland or Sweden, you can check out on that website, they have where their municipalities, their cantons, in 2020 took back the power from their cell distributors and made their own legislation about where they were going to put the cell towers in their community. Imagine if Pembroke Crawford just said, we're going to be the cell tower placement committee, a couple of people, and decided where it was safe. Imagine if we were in charge of that, as opposed to them just going up and up and up. Property values go down. These are places next to cell towers that you can't resale. You have trouble keeping renters. People just kind of get sick. I watched for a couple of years in Ottawa as developers came in with the promise and funding from the Ottawa community, the promise of having low-income housing in their developments, as long as they were allowed to, use a certain piece of land. And so this promise, you watch them keep it. All of the low-income housing in these developments, you have the expensive ones, and the closer you get to the high voltage hydro line, there you see the placement of the lower income housing. Years ago, Ottawa broke the code of 1 kilometer away from them. That used to be in the building code, but because there was a housing shortage, they shortened that to less than half a kilometer. These exposures cause muscular dystrophy type symptoms in children, voiding issues. We're all going through that right now. The ads for the pens are crazy. The stim of our abdominals and our adrenals it's across the board. So these types of physical problems you see when there's a bit of an overload going on, but especially in these low income housing places. Okay, I'll switch over to questions. I just wanted to mention one more thing, a couple more things. So we talked about Maine News, we talked about City of Ottawa. Notices of liability are often how people are approaching their council members and governments about stopping. So I'm sure you guys have had discourses about notices of liability. Kingston for Safe Technology was one of the first groups to put out examples of this that we could use. So they still have the site up, and I'm sure you guys have lots of resources. One other thing that was interesting that happened, and this is something to think about because we all like to hunt up here. And in Florida, it's been since 2020. The Florida government, I believe, seized thousands of, what are they called? Monitors, site monitors, wireless site monitors off of guns. So if you have one of these things that gives your information to the cloud and then gives you an accurate reading, don't forget it's going to the cloud. And everything is taped. So thousands of these just got seized, right? Stay low tech. Stay low tech, otherwise it's not your business, it's somebody else's. Okay, yeah, I can talk more, or I could maybe stop for now and see, is there anybody who had any questions? I have a few resources here as well. This is the social model of disability. If anybody is struggling to get acknowledged, this is actually written by the Women's College Hospital in Toronto. They have an electrosensitive assessment unit there. And this is looking at how electrosensitivity is actually a type of disability that we need to start acknowledging, even though it's not a disability, it's more of a social disability. And I also have another book here called Reinventing Wires, the Future of Landlines and Networks. I'll just leave up here. This is a model of how do we safely cable things rather than having our free wireless all over the place with very little care to our safety. So, any questions? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. So when he's asking where his readings be different closer to a cell tower with the sugar readings, Dr. Magda Havas has done these tests in her room. And the way she does it is cell phone on, take some little prick of blood, shut the cell phone off. We're humans, we're not computers. We don't immediately go off. So give it a minute for your system to transmit. Then take the, and she does it. So she does it within a 5-minute window and the readings are different. Yeah.
There goes Brian with the camera or with the mic.
That's what I'm saying. That's what the science is showing. That's Dr. Magda Havas's research. It's also, in my experience with the people I love, something that we've paid close attention to and found to be real. I'm not a diabetic, but my father was before he passed, and he tried it. Same thing. Readings are different. The readings were different. Take the mic so we can hear you. Well, that's what Magda Havas's research shows. Now, here the thing, sir, is depends where you're sitting. Are you sitting with your cell phone in your back pocket? Is your neighbor playing games? So it depends on your exposure. Magda did hers in a pure environment. It's something to look up her. That's right. That's right. So you'll have to find a. Yes, you could, but I would find a purer environment than this to test it. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Let's get the mic to you, Neela. Hold on. Here it comes. Mic's coming.
Don't worry about Brian.
That's a really good question. Is there a success story we can build on in terms of municipalities? All over, all over. So these types of success stories, I just told you one in our area, so that's not super close, but the Bruce Peninsula, Dyers Bay. Check that out. There's a group there. May News, very active in Bancroft. They've successfully done it once. It went up anyway, but they're in process of doing it again. So they know how to motivate council members. And really, these types of stories are suppressed. They're suppressed. So the only way that I find out these things is through our channels, through the different Freedom Channel. So Canadians for Safe Technology will post that type of stuff. Ontario for Safe Tech, we send out these emails, but you have to dig in, but you'll find them. In the United States, given the different structures around freedom and answerableness to the government that they have way more success stories. So Florida at one point was banning 5G. They just decided, or restricting where it was going to go anyway. The whole province, so yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so if you imagine yourself as a healthy being, and then you imagine radiation. What is radiation? I mean, the closest reference we come to with this is microwave. How do we feel we stand with microwave? And maybe the Hulk, unless you work for Hydro or you work for the military. I guess people up here probably do. But what does radiation feel like? Generally speaking, it feels like very quickly flu. Flu symptoms are coming over me, but these flu symptoms will disappear when you leave the environment. That's the difference, right? So you could be crampy, diarrhea, headaches, migraines are a big one. If you use any type of metallics, the spray-on shampoo, if you're taking any type of the metallics in your skin stuff, people have increased responses to electricity coming at them, whether it's electricity from a wireless phone, a baby monitor, those are big culprits, or whether it's an actual millimeter wave device like a cell phone. It doesn't really matter the spectrum. And by the way, it was interesting, Peter was talking about praying for a holy spectrum. This is our spectrum environment. This is our prayer space that they're polluting. This is the place where Reiki happens. What business do they have to claim all those frequencies and pollute them as much as they want? What are the chances? There already are reports of spontaneous combustions happening here, there. How to track line of sight here, line of sight there, when it becomes so dense. We've seen fires on the water. We've sort of started to take control of that environment. But the spectrum environment, because we don't see it, they can just do what they want with it. The spectrum environment is now under the control of, and I wrote it down there, but I probably got the words a bit backwards, but it's the department, the Ministry of Technology, Innovation, and Science. What is our spectrum environment doing under the control of the Ministry of Science or Technology, right? Why is it just a technology? That's our prayer space. Anyway, were there any more questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Travis.
What would you say to folks who seems to be quite cell phone and cordless phones, hearing review for myself, I'm pretty good with versatile technology. Probably the replicated but there's frequencies that they got and that so what do you say to someone who maybe knows nothing but
Okay, I would say that person probably has a very robust biome, probably doing pretty good if they're not feeling any of it. But the chances of us all being in great health all the time, hello, no, it doesn't happen like that. So people often in their good health feel like, oh, I can carry this. But that exposure, the science is written. Canadians for Safe Technology has over 200 printed scientific papers there on the harms of wireless. The World Health Organization has labeled it a class 2 carcinogen 15 years ago. There, we don't talk about that, but it's already known as a carcinogen. And what Chris mentioned in terms of COVID, I can only talk personally from this and from the people that I help. There was a very real correlation between the severity of COVID when people thought they had it, if they had it in a wireless environment versus were able to escape some technology. I personally believe the combination of whatever that flu is, the metals in our body, and the exposure to the frequencies killed some people. I personally believe that they could have gotten out of the frequency, the radiation while they're sick, things would have looked a lot better. There are the mechanism by what that happens is radiation stops oxygen from being able to saturate your blood properly. That's it. You can't deny that. That's the science. Millimeter wave radiation is radiation. Oh, it's just a little bit. Watching a movie for 3 hours, texting my boyfriend for 2 hours, that's 5 hours a day of radiation. Doesn't matter if it's millimeter wave. So yeah, it makes it absolutely one of the things you can do if you're sick, shut down. You can save your life by unplugging your modem. If you think you've got a bad sickness, unplug your modem, shut your cell phone off, data off first, because it still speaks, even if the airplane mode's on, it will still call out, and so will the cell phone. They'll be like talking between the four. It's calling for you. The airplane mode's not enough. Data off, airplane mode off, away from you. Watch, just do an experiment. Just do the experiment yourself. Sure. If you watched any of the videos in Wuhan, if you watched any of the videos of the people by the hundreds throwing their cell phones into those bins, there was a reason. We didn't hear any more about that. It was so hard for me to get rid of my smartphone because I'm a high-powered social worker. It literally had to fall in a snowbank and get lost for 8 months because otherwise I would have kept using it. They're so addictive. Now I have a flip phone. Those have no data, way less radiation. But yes, they're not safe. If they could make them safe, we can go to space. How come we can't make a device safe to hold? It's the care that hasn't gone into it. Cabled internet, properly cabled, not just cheap cable, properly cabled internet. The Army can do this so that they can't even detect it. Okay? Why can't we have that quality going to our home? Why? That's a good question to ask your service providers or your counselors. You know, I'm 51. I go driving without a cell phone through my entire 20s. Like, you know, if something happened, you showed up when you showed up. You know, you're supposed to show up somewhere, you showed up. You didn't call and cancel. We counted on each other. You know, we didn't text. We took a deep breath and we called someone. Anybody else have any questions?
Right here.
Okay, go ahead.
If you have a website, or you mentioned one of the books, I think was Reinventing Wires.
Yeah.
Do you have any other books or websites where we can follow up with more information?
Yes.
In relation to, I think you kind of touched on fortifying your home, or at least reducing that's around.
Yeah, because the body's a healing machine, eh? We recover very quickly. But then we flip it on again the next morning, and we flip it on again the next morning. How long can your work? Yeah, so safe living technology. I wrote it
Sorry about that, everyone. We're back. We're back. Damn it.
Good stuff, Raina. Thanks for bringing your mother here. We appreciate that. That was awesome, Kathleen. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. All right, give her another round of applause. That was a lot of good information.
Yeah, I know, Ronnie. I didn't realize I have 2 lives going.
Okay. That's good, Kathleen. Thank you very much. So her resources and stuff are going to be here for you to take a look at. And
If you want to jump
yeah.
in the other one quick for me and turn it and disconnect it.
Thanks so much, Brian. That was
No
good.
worries.
So I think we'll continue with Brian's good work with the mic. So with each speaker, if you have any questions, we'll run around with the mic and that'll be good. Thanks so much for that. All right. Now I want to introduce Mr. Donald Lee, all the way from Alberta, Canada. He's an excellent author, and we've heard him speak a few times at our meetings, and he's got a lot to say. And yeah, he's The Way Forward is his most recent book. He's working on another one on spiritual warfare. So really happy to have Donald Lee here. Thank you so much for coming. Is this gonna work? Yeah, you
Well, particularly for the benefit of those of you who have not heard me before, let me just, I'll give you a very brief introduction about who I am, where I've come from.
I've only got
I've
one
come from
finger, so-
Alberta with my banjo on my knee, and, you know, sort of. Anyway, I'm from Alberta. I have gone to 2 previous careers. I spent almost 2 decades in the fertilizer industry in Western Canada, and then went back to my first love, which is music, and spent almost 2 decades as a band director and a teacher, mostly in Alberta. And I'm wearing one of my music-themed shirts today. So this is my string shirt. It's got guitars and violins and cellos and stuff like that on it. So yeah, I sometimes can be a little bit tacky with the way I dress myself, but that's okay.
Do you want to grab one?
And in 2019, I officially retired from teaching to start what I count as my 3rd career as a spiritual author and speaker. And my first 2 books were strictly spiritual. I used this little trademark, the band director. So my first one is life. It's a little bit like a Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Each little parable is about 3 pages long, starts out with a story that happened in school, sort of, you know, it's like the Hollywood movies say, they're inspired by real events. I've changed the names, of course, to protect the guilty. And I've changed the various details to make me look better than I really was. And then I set out to publish that in December 2019. That date should kind of twig at some memories in folks' heads. Of course, we didn't know at the time what was going on, but on the other side of the world in Wuhan. And then I set out to try to sell my first book in January, February of 2020. I traveled around Alberta a little bit, had some book launch events and book signings in bookstores and that sort of thing. And then in March of 2020, I was just in the middle of planning a cross Canada book selling tour. It's not a spaceship. It's a duck. But the problem is that most of us don't know, have never been taught the patterns that we're seeing, right? So there's probably only a minority of people here who could tell the difference in the very distinctive patterns between a mallard
Sorry about
and a
technical
pintail
difficulties.
and a gadwall, and even between a green-winged teal, for example. Okay, but if you know the patterns, then you can recognize them very quickly. And it's the same with things that are going on in the world. There are patterns in the events of the world. And so in the book, What the Hell's Going On, I teach you some of those patterns, the pattern of fraud, because that's very important. When you understand it, then you can see, oh, heck, that's a fraud. Not many people are calling what's going on fraud, but that's the right word for it. It's not a hoax. That's something a little bit different. So pattern recognition is really important. And we can recognize the pattern of totalitarian subversion. We can recognize the patterns of psychological warfare, etc. And as I explain more fully in my more recent book, The Way Forward, I believe that all of us are on a journey of awareness and transformation. And each one of us is on this journey individually, just for ourselves, and all of us are also on this journey collectively as humanity. And the first step is then to become aware of what's really going on, the nature of the warfare being conducted against us, and how we can sensibly respond to that warfare. And then our sensible response involves a personal transformation and a transformation of our communities. And that's the focus of The Way Forward. So, for example, let me just touch briefly on the pattern of totalitarian subversion. So, you know, we've had a lot of, in the last 4 years, a lot of people have been passing around the name and some of the videos from Yuri Bezmenov. How many people recognize that name? Oh, that's good. Some of you do. Now, Yuri Bezmenov was quite a famous refugee, defector, that's the word I'm looking for, defector from the Soviet Union. And he defected in, I think it was the early 80s, might have been the late 70s. He defected to the United States, ended up actually living out the rest of his life in Canada. And he wrote a book called Love Letter to America, in which he wrote down the communist operating manual for how they go around the world trying to subvert other countries, communist subversion, and convert them from democracies or whatever they happen to be to communist dictatorship. And it's a 4-step process. It involves, number one, demoralization. Step 2 is destabilization. Step 3 is the crisis. And step 4 is normalization. And it's an iterative process. It just keeps going on. So the demoralization is essentially destroying the moral fabric of a society. And those of us who have white hair have probably noticed through the course of our lifetimes that so many of the things that were just kind of taken for granted as being part of Western culture and Western society when we were young, they've just been destroyed, right? Faith in God and religions, the respect for other people, all kinds of things. This is all intentional. Everybody look at the airplane. And then destabilization is the gradual taking over of all of the institutions or structures within a nation. And it's not just the political structures, it's everything. It's taking control of the media, taking control of professional associations, taking control of unions, taking control even of religious institutions, right? So taking control of everything. And it happens so slowly we don't notice, right? It's like the hour hand on the clock. We know it moves, but you look at it and you can't see it moving. So we look at our society and it's changed so slowly that we can't see it from day to day or from week to week. But those of us who are a little older look back a half a century and think, man, everything's changed. This isn't Canada anymore. It's completely different. So that's the subversion process. And once again, it's ongoing. It's a decades-long process that just keeps going, taking control of all of these structures in society. And step 3 is the crisis. So they're always manufacturing some kind of a crisis. And the purpose of the crisis is to justify greater government control and a greater inhibition of our freedoms and our liberties. And we see this over and over, the 9/11 crisis. Oh, we've got to do something about all these Muslim terrorists. And so we've got to make everybody take half their clothes off when you get on an airplane. You can't take a bottle of water, or, all this stuff. Then somehow that's supposed to prevent terrorism. But anyway, all of these crazy things, right? We need surveillance over everyone. We got to watch and record everything you do on social media and on your phone and on your computer, right? For everybody's safety. Of course, it has nothing to do with safety. This is you creating a crisis and then using the crisis to take greater totalitarian control. And we saw this in spades, of course, with the COVID crisis, another manufactured crisis. And the response everywhere by governments was more control. So this is the pattern. And then step 4 is normalization. So right now we're kind of in this lull. People think, oh, things are back to normal. No, they're not back to normal. This is the normalization of the totalitarian control that they've already achieved. And then the next crisis, they'll take a greater step in totalitarian control, right? And then they'll normalize that. So this is the process that we're going through. This is the pattern of totalitarian subversion. And I can say once you know the pattern, then you're able to recognize it when you see it. And so our solution to this, because we're being attacked on every level of our being, body, mind, and soul. So it's spiritual warfare, it's psychological warfare, and on a physical level, it's what's called 5th generation warfare. So in the way forward, I explain how each of those 3 types of warfare works and what we can sensibly do to respond to that. And it's really captured in my little mantra. And I say in this, because the war is fundamentally spiritual, because everything is fundamentally spiritual. So in this spiritual war, our strategy is love, Our tactic is forgiveness. Our weapon is nonviolent, non-cooperation. And one of the things that we need to do, particularly with regard to on the physical level, the 5th generation warfare, is to build what are called parallel structures. How many of you kind of understand the idea of parallel structures? Some yes, some no. Essentially, all of the structures or institutions in our society have become controlled. As I just explained a moment ago, that's step 2 of the communist subversion process. Destabilization, to take control of all of the various structures in a society and turn them into totalitarian control mechanisms. So we see medical doctors being controlled by the medical association. We see nurses being controlled by the nurses association. We see teachers being controlled by the teachers associations. That's the main reason I'm not a teacher anymore. And, you know, every professional association, every union has taken control of its members. That's not what these were supposed to be. They were supposed to represent the members, not control the members. And yet that's what's happened. And that's the whole idea behind destabilization, to take control of these structures. So these structures in our society can no longer be reformed. They must be replaced. So the idea of parallel structures is we need to build from the ground up brand new structures in all these levels. We need to build new communities. And you have a great community here in Pembroke, and you're doing some awesome things. And many people are working on food security. You got food over there. My books are just over right by the food. So if you're interested in checking into any more of my books, you can come by. And of course, the food will nourish your body, and my books will nourish your mind and your soul. So we need to build these parallel structures. And I encourage you, those of you here in Pembroke, to find areas in which you would like to be a part of building new parallel structures. You got people who are interested in the electromagnetic warfare problem. That's part of 5th generation warfare, and it also ties into psychological and even spiritual warfare, actually. So these are the things that we need to do to build our parallel structures, and our freedom group is the nucleus from which these structures will come. And I call it the new paradigm of community. And we also need to transform ourselves. According to my little mantra, strategy is love, tactic is forgiveness, our weapon is nonviolent non-cooperation. So we need to become greater vessels of love and forgiveness to all of those around us. And this transformation I call, we need to create within ourselves a new archetype for humanity. And I explain that, of course, in more detail. So this is our journey, a journey of awareness and transformation. And to the extent that you may or may not already be on the journey, I invite all of you, every single one of you individually, to undertake this on a very conscious level, to transform yourself into the best person you can be, and to transform your own communities into the ideal of community that we want to achieve. So it's been a joy to share some time with you. God bless all of you, and I'll turn things back over to, do you want me to take some time for questions? Or you really want to? Okay.
Any questions for Donovan?
You can also just drop by my little book table and ask me personally, but anybody have questions? I know I scratched the surface of a bunch of different ideas. Okay, thanks.
I almost feel like asking you more. Can I just ask you some questions right here, right now? Okay, Donald's been going all across Canada. Should we pick his brain on the whole thing going on, the vibe everywhere? Can you tell us how it's been, like the different groups you've seen across the country and what's going on everywhere? Just an overview.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Really, the same things are going on everywhere, to a different extent and degree everywhere, right? Here in Pembroke, you guys have got a great group. You got a great leader. Like, hands up for, like, put your hands together for Chris, eh? But one of the points that I make in the way forward is that, you know, we're essentially conducting a fourth generation insurgency war in response to the fifth generation warfare being conducted against us. And one of the key principles of fourth generation insurgency war is that everyone is a leader. So no one can just sit back and say, oh, Chris is going to take care of it. No, everyone is a leader. So it's up to each one of you to find how you want to be a leader in creating our new communities. And of course, different groups are falling apart all over the place. You've probably seen it. Some groups are tearing themselves apart. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, but we also have to be alert to the fact that one of the principal means of communist subversion and also counterterrorism is to intentionally subvert every organization that isn't in complete alignment with the government narrative. So our organizations, our freedom movement, our freedom groups are intentionally being subverted by people who are sent in to sow chaos, to sow rumors about people. Oh, did you hear about Chris? Did you hear about that when he was in jail? You know, whatever rumors get passed. I don't know. Were you ever really in jail? You know, being in jail is almost a badge of honor these days, but whatever. You know, like rumors get spread, right? So this aspect of the destruction of our groups is something that we need to each overcome by rising above this. We know better than to traffic in gossip. All of us know this, and yet it's so tempting, isn't it? Oh, really? What did he do? Who did he do it with? What did he do? You know, we want to hear all the gory details, even if they're fabricated, they're not true, or if they're like, right? So we need to. This is why part of the way forward is a personal transformation, so that each one of us will rise above this, and we will not be drawn in, right, to these lower levels of consciousness in which we destroy ourselves. Because that's right, the basic idea of psychological warfare is to get the enemy to destroy himself, right? So part of that, subverting our groups, sowing division everywhere, dividing, getting us to divide ourselves into groups, right? The pro-vax and the anti-vax and the pro-abortion and the anti-abortion and the conservatives versus the liberals versus the NDP versus the Trump supporters versus like everything, right? The straight versus the gay and the blue versus the red, like every single way. And every time these psychological warfare guys find a new little movement coming up, then they think, okay, we can get, you know, these guys are against whatever. These guys are against cucumbers. Okay, we're going to label them the anti-cucumbers, and we're going to, you know, now, you know, bring in psychological warfare to divide the pro-cucumber group from the anti-cucumber group and get them fighting like they do everything. They're constantly on the lookout for other ways to divide us into antagonistic groups that we fight against ourselves. So, you know, the way to overcome this aspect of psychological warfare is to realize this is intentionally being done to us, and to rise above that, and to accept that every single human being is unique and different, and they're going to be different from you. They're going to have different opinions. So be it, right? We want freedom for ourselves, and that means we have to allow the same freedom for other people, right? This is very, very difficult. Even people in the freedom movement, I want freedom for me, and we need to put those guys in jail, or everybody needs to stop those guys from doing what we disagree with. No, I mean, the basic ideas are, look, as long as it's nonviolent, as long as you're not committing fraud against anybody, then do whatever you want. Believe whatever you want. Pursue whatever business or occupation you want, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Like, go for it. And you have to allow other people to be themselves, do their own thing, drive around in these crazy, stupid bikes, right? Whatever. Hey, more power to you. Right? It's not hurting me. Right? Yeah, give him a hand. We need to allow. So that's one of the things. Groups are falling apart, tearing themselves apart. And we need to rise above these internal divisions and our own human weaknesses, which all of us are subject to. We need, that's why part of the way forward is a personal transformation. Okay, that's a long answer to a short question. Do you have another question? Okay, well, you got lots of speakers there. Go ahead. God bless you all.
Thanks, Donald. That was fantastic. You got good answers for things, and just great philosophies. And the last stuff he was talking about, I really like that, because we're all doing different things, and why knock each other? Why not just lift each other up? And on that note, a quick liftage. I was talking with Kim over here. Kim's a nurse, and you're at the Renfrew Hospital, right? No, which one? You don't have to say. Anyways, Kim was
Saving my battery.
Yeah.
Kim's a nurse, and she was just telling me that there was
You
a
saved the
recent
battery for
ruling in
you, eh?
court where the nurses are going to at some point, right, get back pay for, you know, their jobs being taken away. Because remember, the nurses were the heroes in all this, and they continue to be the heroes. And the ones who stood up, you know, like Kim, and like, where is she over here? There's someone else I was talking to who's a nurse who's now working at Miramichi. Where'd you go? Anyway, she was here. The nurses, you know, all the way along. So difficult. And for Kim, after a 42-year career, to just be like, you know, shut down because she had a different choice in these things. Can we just give all the nurses a big round of applause right now? Kim, thank you for, we're going to find out more. It sounds like the courts are agreeing with Kim and with the other nurses, and that's such great news. So uplifting. And there's lots of things going on. The fact that we don't hear very much about any of these court cases going on in Canada is just evidence that the people must be doing well, because otherwise the media would be like, you know, Pat King's going to prison. They only talk about Pat King and a few people, but there's lawsuits happening all the way across the country. And they're not going to tell us about the successes, but they're there, and that's great news. Are we set to go here? We got an awesome musical interlude coming up. This is, you ready to just give her, eh? Mr. Dave Gould is in the house. Let's give him a big hand to get him going. And all right.
One man band.
Thanks, Chris.
We're just going to take a quick second to
All right, I'm going to end this
do
for
something
a
with
little
the
bit
sound.
just to save some battery there, and be back a little later on. Bye for now.
You should record his music.
Oh, I got to save battery.